Welcome to Study Abroad Alums Talk Careers. This is an event for Study Abroad Week, and my name is Cara Miller, and I will be your host and moderator for today's event. This alumni panel is going to feature DePaul graduates who are enthusiastic to share how their international experiences have shaped their personal and professional paths, and it will highlight real stories of how study abroad can mean better career outcomes post-graduation. Next, we're going to meet our alumni and hear their stories. And I'm so sorry. Do you guys hear a background noise? You do too. Okay, I hear it's like a feedback. So sorry. I will try that again. Okay. So we're going to hear alumni stories, and then there's going to be a question and answer session during the last 15 minutes of the event. So let's go ahead and get started and meet our alumni. Sarah, welcome to the panel. Please tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Baumer. I studied abroad for a semester in Lima, Peru in fall of 2018. And then I loved that so much that I did a second program, a short-term one in India for the December intersession of 2019. I work at a nonprofit called Generation Schools Network. It's a year-long position that I'm in through AmeriCorps Vista, and I'm the accountability system support specialist, and that's kind of a long title, but essentially what I do is like logistical communications, event planning, and web design. Let's see. So I would say that my study abroad experience gave me the confidence to explore and ultimately apply for job opportunities outside of my initial comfort zone in terms of like what I thought my skills were, but also like geographic location. So in my kind of personal and like career growth, I would say I just moved across the country in the middle of a pandemic. And I credit my study abroad experience as like the only reason I felt comfortable doing that. I essentially, I found a job, I applied, got the position, and with AmeriCorps, you have to like relocate within 5 days, like business days of your office reopening. My office hasn't reopened yet, but I was like, I'd rather be there when it all starts to reopen eventually. So I got an apartment sight unseen and just moved here. And I think that, yeah, my confidence definitely comes from studying abroad. A skill that I use every day in my job that I developed during study abroad would be flexibility. As I mentioned, I'm doing event planning, so I have to be really flexible right now. We've had like a plan A if things can happen in person, and a plan B if things can happen, or if things need to happen virtually. And as these like first few events have rolled out, we're switching everything to virtual. So I would say I've learned how to be flexible from, travel plans falling through, buses not showing up, getting on the wrong bus, that type of stuff. Oh, how did I talk about study abroad in my interviews? So I just had several interviews this past summer since I'm a recent graduate. And I always used study abroad to frame the like, tell me a little bit about yourself question. I think people are like inherently interested in travel, so it's a good way to bring it up. And then also if you're a recent grad and you don't have a ton of experience like in the field that you're applying for a job in, I think it's a good way to capture your interviewer's attention and kind of like bridge that gap. Let's see. Oh, to showcase on my resume, I always put it at the top. So like as a recent grad, education's like the first thing on my resume. And then under that, I have my study abroad. For my term long program, I like listed out the full college and then like the dates that I was there. For my short-term program, I just put in the country and then the time frame that I was there, and I specified that it was short-term. That way, people aren't expecting there to be a college necessarily associated with it. And then the advice I would give to students is to get outside of your comfort zone. I was the only person who studied abroad in Lima, Peru my semester, or the only person from DePaul. And so at first I was really, just terrified and so nervous about it. And then it really helped me, learn how to like explore my neighborhood independently and make new friends and, travel and see new places with new people. And I think that from that, I gained a lot of confidence and curiosity, which has helped me in my career thus far. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we are going to hear from Kristen. Please tell us about your experience.
Hi, so I studied on a non-DePaul Study Abroad program to the American University of Paris. I did a full semester there, which was a winter and spring quarter. And I worked at the study abroad office for about a year, which was amazing. So kind of getting into the questions we have lined out here. I think for me personally, my study abroad experience was always like a dream goal of mine. So even graduating high school, I knew that that was like a make or break decision for where I was going to go to university for school. So for me, kind of knowing that, I definitely want to work abroad as well. So it's kind of goes hand in hand, to study abroad if you want to work in an internationally connected field, or just even have prospects to go abroad and work abroad. So definitely, as Sarah said before, that confidence level, it was a really difficult process of getting the visa, and the whole paperwork process is difficult in general. So really building my confidence of like, I'm organized, like you're really challenged to kind of, again, push out of your comfort zone and, work independently. And so for me, that was definitely, you know, definitely confidence builder, and pushed me, which was really, really good for now. So one of the most important hard skills that you'll learn from study abroad, is language. And like I said, if you're looking to do anything international or even domestically, having a separate language skill that you can kind of prove, like I lived in this country for such and such time, is definitely kind of backs up your claims of I'm proficient in French or I'm proficient in Spanish. And employers definitely look for that. So for me, that's definitely been very important, as well as in the field that I'm looking to work into, doing being able to communicate with different cultures and understanding their background and how to communicate with them is very important. So I've found that that's definitely one of the things that you really can learn some hardcore skills when you're abroad. And like I said, it's very important for your job. I'm currently in marketing, so it can be helpful to understand specific customer trends. So typically, for my past interviews, trying to bring up, especially if it's a very intercultural, like big multinational corporation, it's very helpful to show that you're going to be able to relate to your coworkers, and having those language skills is really important, to be able to use those day to day. And I put it underneath my school again, which is very important. So it's good to bring it up. I think a lot of people, this is kind of a unique experience, so interviewers won't necessarily bring it up. So it's good to kind of show that, you took that experience, you can show that you took the initiative to go and have that experience and push outside your comfort zone. So I would just even bring it up to recruiters, or bring it up to your future manager when you're in the interview, so you can even kind of show your communication skills, and that you are very like dedicated, and you're very tenacious and persistent about what you want to do. And one of the advices that I would give to students considering abroad is study abroad for a year if you can. I know Kara's probably heard that from me all the time. If you're even thinking about studying abroad for a year, just do it. That was one of my biggest regrets, is that I only did a semester. I found that that one of the things I kind of wish I had done is maybe reached out to DePaul alumni when you're out in that city. There are actually quite a few DePaul alumni in Europe right now, and I've been reaching out to them considering going to grad school in Paris. So it's a good thing to kind of network with alumni while you're in that city. You can kind of gain friends through their circles, and try and meet some locals. Like, I know that's kind of hard for some Americans to meet locals, but it's so important, because how else are you really going to have that experience of, learning about another culture if you don't, talk to the bread maker down the street who's actually from Poland living in Paris because, her boyfriend moved her there and she wants to go back. Like, that kind of stuff makes a difference. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kristen. And I do hope that you get back to France for grad school. That would be wonderful.
Yes. And then the UN. So we'll.
Very good. High aspirations. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Next, we're going to hear from James Dietrich. Can you please introduce yourself and share your story and experience with us?
Certainly. I went to Bonn, Germany in the winter, spring of 2011, my junior year, and I loved it so much that I went back to Bonn, Germany for a master's program after I graduated from DePaul. Currently, I work for Rotary International as a youth exchange and youth protection specialist, so I actually get to help our many different nations, over 535 districts, organize youth exchange for those who are 14 to 19 years old. So it's really nice kind of living vicariously through these kids. And I'm really happy that I had this experience in Germany, because after I had done my study abroad, I knew I wanted to find a job where I could travel and kind of represent global citizenry. And finding an international organization like Rotary has been a nice fit for me. And the seeing the kids and having them see their own intercultural competence expand is something that I'm really proud of right now. Regarding the personal and professional growth that comes from international experience, personally, it's allowed me to meet people from all over the world. The second time I went to Germany, my roommates were from Chile, Serbia, and Egypt. And I'm still friends with them today. We're still in a WhatsApp group, clowning each other for how much the other one, doesn't play well at FIFA. And I was also able to get a better understanding of the German language, which was important to me because my family emigrated from Austria in the 50s. And not for nothing, but I met my fiance in Germany, and I'm very lucky to have her in my life. Professionally, knowing a second language is a huge benefit. Knowing the most popular second language of Europe and that of the largest economy in Europe has massive value. And just from a professional standpoint, Germany is very much involved with Rotary and Rotary Youth Exchange. In fact, the president this year is from Germany. And so last year's convention was in Hamburg, and I, of course, got to go because I could demonstrate that, hey, you're going to need someone who speaks German when we go out there. And it was really great. As far as what skills or abilities you gained as a result of studying abroad, I think the most important one is to embrace discomfort. As I've gotten past the study abroad experience, it seems obvious that most of your personal growth comes from discomfort, and most of life is actually very uncomfortable. So with that in mind, I've been able to switch positions at my current job from a different department. I've been able to do well when I travel for work, and it's been, helpful to adapt, working from home because of COVID. When you talk about your study abroad experience in interviews, at least for me, I always spoke about it fondly, and I always used it as an example, because in an interview, they're always asking you for stories about yourself where you can demonstrate whatever value they're looking for. And so much of what happens when you're studying abroad, taking on new challenges, getting lost, coming out at the end, it's really important. Now, most employers might tell you that you need like a singularly skilled person, But I would argue that the diversity of your experience really makes you more malleable and adaptable. As far as showcasing it is concerned, I mean, just the fact that you can survive in another country is something that a lot of people can't say they have done. And a lot of them have no frame of reference for what that's even like. And additionally, it's the intercultural competence that I mentioned earlier. When you're working in an office, you're going to come across people from all sorts of backgrounds, and how you get along and work with them is not only important for your own enjoyment for the job, but a lot of times it's a deciding factor in career advancement if all things are equal. And if you can tell your own effective Bildungsroman, which is German for coming of age story, right? You were somewhere, you had to go on a journey, you learned something while you were there, you came back, changed for the better. That's going to be a compelling story that sticks in people's minds. And the last piece of advice, if you are considering studying abroad, is do it and embrace the comfort, or the discomfort, I should say. I remember being there, and after 2 months, I was like, how is my German getting worse? I can't believe it. And about a week later, you know, I was just flying through. I was scared. I thought I had made a huge mistake when I went. And soon you forget why you were nervous. And after that, you start to get nervous about going back. I agree with Kristen. I should have done a whole year and not a semester. That was a mistake the first time. So fortune favors the bold, and it takes guts to study abroad. So just do it.
Thank you so much, James. I'm going to remember that. Fortune favors the bold. I like it. I appreciate you sharing your experience. Thank you so much. And next we'll hear from our alumni. Brenda, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your experience, please?
Hi. First, I'd like to say hi. I used to work at the Office of Study Abroad, so it's nice to see Kara. I know Nick was working there when I was working there. Marty, Alma, it's nice to see you guys. My name is Brenda. I did 2 study abroad programs. They were both short term. The first one was in 2013. I did a program in Berlin, and it was like a first year abroad situation, and we had a quarter at DePaul, and then we did 1 week in Berlin, and that was like my first time going so far for travel, going, you know, across the ocean, so it was really exciting. And then the next year I did the one listed, which is the Vincentian bicycle pilgrimage, where we cycled from Lyon, France to Paris. So it was 2 weeks of just cycling from town to town, staying in different places until we reached our final destination. So it was a pretty special trip. Currently, I am a research specialist at UIC Dwight Health Department of Emergency Medicine. And the way my study abroad experience influenced my professional path was, well, in many ways, I think that resiliency is one of the things. Just being able to, you know, experience something new and adapt to it. And there's a lot of failures and a lot of things you have to overcome to become successful. And that's just something that's part of life. And I think travel gives you a concentrated version of that, and it helps you just kind of get on your way in terms of the career path. So for me, after doing the Vincentian bicycle pilgrimage, I did a graduate program in Paris. So I did a double master's in economics and psychology at the Sorbonne. And I didn't even know, I mean, I know it's a very like renowned university worldwide, but I had never heard of it before actually going there on this trip. And the professor that led the trip, he wrote a lot of recommendations for me. He helped me through the application process because I applied directly through the university. I didn't speak any French because this bicycle pilgrimage, I was just biking and it didn't require speaking any French. So I had to manage that whole thing on my own without speaking the language, and then of course getting there and learning the language because then I was living in France and I was going to be living there for 2 years. So it was definitely a big leap. Well, even the trip, I guess, I bought a bicycle the day before we started our training, and I hadn't ridden a bike in years. So the whole thing was a bit of an experience, but I got to learn about this university and the options that were out there abroad for me, and I realized I really liked being in that new environment and learning different things. So I ended up doing that master's program, and of course that's something that obviously goes at the top of my resume and that a lot of people are familiar with. that are familiar with international institutions. So it's a pretty renowned university, and it got done extremely cheaply. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to afford a master's program in the US because, it's something that's very expensive. And over there, I think I paid less than 500 euros per year as tuition. So very, very cheap. I remember when I told people here, they just couldn't believe me. They're like, that's not true. There must be something wrong there. So it's really exciting. And it gave me that opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's something that always comes up. People always ask about my, career there and any path that I've been in. So right now I work with a bunch of doctors and different people. And even at my interview there, everyone's always like, oh, Paris, that's so cool, so exciting. So it's just something that, people kind of remember and they're interested in and they want to talk to you about. So it does set you apart from other candidates right away. And that's just one way that's going to impact your life, just being able to stand out from a bunch of people. If you've made it to the interview, clearly you're qualified, but then part of that interview is going to be like, is this someone that we want in the office? Is this someone we can get along with and have a conversation with? And that's a great point to start, because just as many other people have mentioned, travel is something that's very interesting to a lot of people. So that's a great way to differentiate yourself and have a conversation. And then in terms of skills, I touched a little bit on that, but I think a huge thing is definitely that resiliency of being able to enter a new environment. I think every office is definitely has its own culture, and you're new there. It's very similar to travel. Everyone has already been there. You're new. They know their way around, and you just kind of have to take a crash course and learn along the way. You're going to make some mistakes, but you're going to have to be able to learn from it and keep going. So that's a huge skill, definitely. And then I think that covers most of the questions. The last one is just what advice I would give to anyone thinking about it. I think just definitely do it. I didn't have much travel experience. I didn't think I could afford it. And I was able to have this really great experience, learn about being abroad. I got a scholarship, I think, for both programs to attend. And it was a great way to kind of learn what was out there, and it just opened the door for so many opportunities for me. So if you're thinking about it, definitely give it a shot, talk to financial aid, and just see if it's possible.
Thank you so much for such encouraging words, Brenda. I really appreciate that. I'm delighted. I love that you were able to go back and attend at the Sorbonne. That's like the Harvard of France, that's a big deal. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Next, we're going to hear from our alumni. Nick, can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your experience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good to see those I recognize. My name's Nick Keener. I graduated from DePaul in 2013. I studied communication and German. I also studied abroad in Bonn, Germany, the fall quarter of my junior year. I currently work as a product manager for a company called the Wünsche Group, an international trading company based in Hamburg, Germany, and I work here in the Chicago satellite office. Studying abroad definitely confirmed for me that my professional life, after I graduated, I wanted to work in an international or global environment, more precisely the German business world, which led me to where I am today. Studying and living abroad in a foreign country on my own definitely made me more independent and self-driven. It also influenced my adaptation and problem-solving skills. German was my minor, and my language skills improved immensely being in Germany. There is no better way to build language skills than to be fully immersed. I also gained intercultural communication skills being abroad. Living, studying, and being friends with people from all over the world helped me to be a better communicator to people with different cultures than mine. This plays a key role in my job today, working closely with colleagues all over the world. Having international experience in college, whether it be studying, working, or volunteering abroad, proves to your potential employer that you are already comfortable in an international environment. My personal experience with talking about studying abroad during my interview for my current job was that my employer used the opportunity to test my German skills by having me explain my study abroad experience in Germany. So That might be pretty unique. I don't know. Overall, if you are considering studying abroad, I would highly recommend it. Looking back on my college career, studying abroad is a huge highlight, and without it, I do not think I would be where I am today. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate that so very much. I'm going to burst with enthusiasm. I love that you are working with a German organization and that you are putting your German language skills and your intercultural communication skills to work, literally at work.
Yes, exactly.
That's excellent. I'm delighted. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No problem.
Wonderful. Next, we are going to hear from alumni Alicia. Alicia, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience abroad as well?
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me and inviting me to this. So my name is Alicia Ortiz. I studied abroad on the Tanzania program. I went to grad school at DePaul and also worked in the study abroad office. For me, it was super exciting that there were study abroad opportunities for grad students. That's a big reason why I chose my grad program at DePaul. I'm currently a stay-at-home mama. I've got a 4.5-month-old baby. And then until recently, I was working at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago as a study abroad advisor. So study abroad is my jam. It's my passion. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. So in terms of how did study abroad influence my professional path, obviously I loved it so much. I chose it as my career. As an undergrad, I studied abroad as well on a semester program in Spain. So again, to be able to do it as a grad student was really exciting. In terms of just the impact on my personal and professional growth, I think study abroad, for me being an introvert, it's like the ultimate challenge to really put myself in uncomfortable situations. Tanzania was a place so much different than any place I had traveled to before. As an undergrad, I did Spain, which in many ways felt familiar to me. And so I chose Tanzania because I wanted to go somewhere geographically different, be somewhere, with linguistically different, culturally different. And I did that, and it was pretty awesome. Studying international public service as a grad student, we were studying how international organizations run and function on the ground in Tanzania. So to be able to learn firsthand and observe how nonprofit organizations or NGOs work in Tanzania and how they determine what are the needs of Tanzanians and how they address them, that was really interesting to kind of directly experience and observe what I was learning in the classroom in my degree program. In terms of new knowledge, skills, abilities, I think for me, communication skills was super important for me. Working as an advisor in study abroad, you come across students of all different backgrounds. And I think being able to relate to students and make them feel comfortable and open up to the idea of stepping outside of their comfort zone as well was really key. And when you're studying abroad, you're kind of forced to meet new people and to observe and ask questions, and that skill of being able to just talk and have a conversation with someone is so important. And let's see, in terms of articulating that in jobs, obviously I chose study abroad as my career. So, we're interviewing for those kinds of jobs. They, of course, want to hear about my study abroad experiences, but from the role perspective of knowing how these these programs work or function was super key, just to have had experience as a student doing that, because semester programs and short-term programs are much different. So I would articulate just what it's like being a student, and being able to talk about that to other students too. I think that's important. Students love hearing, you know, advisors talk about their personal experience. That's really important. And let's see, advice for what I'd give future students, really just go for it. You're gonna feel challenged, you're gonna feel uncomfortable, you're gonna miss home. You may have like doubts about why you're there, but ultimately you're gonna be so thankful that you did it when you come back, and you, I'm sure, will have grown so much in the process. Every student I've worked with has always said, you know, this was hard, this is difficult, but in the end, I'm so happy I did it because I learned so much and I'm a much better person because of it. So that just would be my advice, is just try not to think twice about it and just do it.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing that. And I appreciate so much that you were able to, you know, relate to students and to share your passion with them. It's great advice. And congratulations on becoming a new mama. Congratulations. Next, we are going to hear from our next alumni. Bernard, can you please introduce yourself and share your experience with us?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Bernard Ramos, and I did the Paris program. Actually, I did the Paris program with Cara in 2003. So we did it in my last quarter of my junior year. So when Cara reached out, and one of the questions that she asked is to submit a photograph of yourself in a study abroad program, I had to remind her that when we went to Paris, the iPhone wasn't even invented yet. So it would have been a difficult thing for me to just pull up a random, you know, picture and so forth. So I'm, you know, my work and my role. So I'm currently the vice president and senior evaluator at Educational Perspectives. So our organization, what we do is we prepare evaluation reports for individuals who completed their studies overseas and determine their equivalencies in the United States, including study abroad programs and, you know, your regular secondary and post-secondary international credentials. What we do is we help individuals get their education recognized. So especially a lot of the folks who completed their studies overseas, they don't know that they don't have to start all over again, and they could just continue on with their professional or educational path. So that's something that it's quite helpful. So what has led study abroad to my professional path? It really, you know, introduced me to, you know, it got me interested in international education, and hence that's why I'm in this organization now. And one of the things that led me to that was I joined Globe. I don't know if it's still around, Global Learning Overseas by Experience. And Cara, I think at one point you were the president, right?
Still, I was the president, and now I'm the staff advisor. Globe is still around.
Look at that. So it's still around. Okay, that's good. And, you know, briefly, I think while, you know, we were still at DePaul, I ended up taking, I think, the treasurer job, or one of the positions in there. And what led me to this is that, you know, Cara actually had a direct impact on where I am, mainly it's because you were the one who told me to check out this job posting about this, you know, nonprofit organization. And lo and behold, worked my way up, and 14 years later, I'm the VP. So thank you, Kara, for that.
I did
So
not know that. Thank you,
personal
Bernard.
oh, yeah. Thanks to, thank you to Karen, thank you to Globe. Actually, coincidentally, I ended up hiring one of the co-founders of Globe. I don't know if Joseph Graff is, that name rings about. I ended up hiring him while he was still in Chicago. Now he's moved to Vancouver. So, but it's funny, it's because it's become a full circle now, and so forth. So Globe. Personal and professional growth, use of skills in professional setting. So, just like what a lot of you guys have said before, relatively shy and introvert, and definitely the study abroad program does introduce you to have a deeper understanding of the country's, linguistics, culinary, and so forth, culture as well. But in my experience, we also went beyond that usual topic cliches, and we've gotten to, because I was in Paris, and you know how opinionated our fellow, French host families and so forth, we really got into topics like, race relations and economic and social disparities and so forth. And till now, I still keep contact with, my host family and a lot of the friends that I've, made up in there, and so forth. So this led me to do further study, actually, and do additional research. After graduating from DePaul, I went back to Paris and did a short stint on researching at Sciences Po, and then lived there for a couple more months and so forth. Being in the field of international education industry, obviously the most prominent skill that I've developed is my French language, and now I have a heavier influence on our French and Francophone policies within our organization and so forth. For interviewing, in the realm of interviewing, obviously linguistic skills is a big plus in my organization, so that's very helpful. But the biggest skills that we tend to highlight, and I've spun this question around in a way where, because now I'm on the other side of the table, the biggest skills that we tend to highlight is on the decision-making side when hiring staff is that having a study abroad experience is that, your ability to break out of your comfort zone, okay? And that's something that everyone's pretty much mentioned already. And especially for individuals who live in countries that have no similarities or relation to what they have at home. I'm not gonna throw shade on people who go to Dublin and London and Australia because they speak English already. But something that would be a big plus would be, like Bolivia and Jordan and Kazakhstan, these particular countries. So definitely for our hiring decision, the way that we look at things is that study abroad actually, it definitely tests your maturity, your creativity, and the ability to recognize what you can't and can control, which are quite important attributes when developing your professional paths. I mean, I don't know how students do it this time around, but I don't know, Kara, if you remember, we actually have to figure out how to have a non-contractual cell phones with us, and then navigate through the whole, is it sans abonnement, or I don't know.
Sans abonnement. Tu te
Without the
souviens.
contact,
You remember,
right.
yeah.
So, that sort of thing. And I'm sure that folks who are doing it for more than one quarter or one semester, you have to figure out how to set up a banking account and so forth. I know I did that when I went back after graduating from DePaul. So those are the things that, it sounds easy and basic, but if you are not, looking like the same people around you and everything, it can be daunting, but challenging and also rewarding at the same time. My advice, I would, first of all, because of the industry that I work in, I would highly encourage to select programs that are make sure that they're recognized and transferable, because that's a lot of money. And professionally speaking, we've had our applicants in our organization find out after spending a whole year that they're not able to transfer those studies into whatever the program that they're in. But so I'm sure, you know, the study abroad office at DePaul, you know, with Kara's leadership and everything, you guys are able to identify those things. And the other thing is select a program that's relatively unique and different to highlight your independence, really. And I think that seems to be a common theme that we've all shared in here. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernard. It was a pleasure to listen to your experience and to almost take a walk down memory lane for me. So thank you so much for sharing that, and I really appreciate that. Thanks for being here with us tonight. And next, I would like to welcome our alumni, another wonderful alumni, Alondra. If you can please introduce yourself and tell us about your experience.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Alondra, and as noted on Kara's presentation, I did the Rome and Assisi short-term program in which Kara was actually the staff member who went with us. That was a short-term one. It was about a week or two, I believe, and I loved it so much that I went ahead and did a second program my junior year. That one was in Budapest, and I was there for the fall of 2016. So I guess to get into some of the questions, I mean, I always kind of knew that I wanted to do journalism. I've always had a thing for storytelling and hearing other people's perspectives on things and, you know, kind of where they come from. So studying abroad was a great opportunity to learn from people who were outside of the United States. So although there were DePaul students on the trip with me, especially in Budapest, we were surrounded by, you know, a lot of different students from other countries. We were in Eastern Europe, which is, you know, very different from the United States, political wise. So I met a lot of people who had different opinions about Americans, about their own countries, and that kind of just solidified for me that I wanted to come back and do something in which I was speaking to people who didn't have the same experience as me. So I stuck to journalism and I have been loving it. I do a lot of stories that are, you know, based in the United States, but every now and then we get the breaking news story happening abroad, and it's just been really, you know, interesting to hear from different people all over the world as, you know, the world is changing and shifting, especially with the pandemic. We've talked to a lot of people and talked about how their governments are handling things and kind of how their own infection numbers are going. So professional growth, I think similar to what a lot of people have said, studying abroad allowed me to meet different people and deal with different types of people who maybe don't have the same opinions as me or look the same as me. ABC News is a pretty big network. There's a lot of different types of people there. We have people all over the world. And so just kind of dealing with sensitive topics like politics and religion and race has just kind of been an ongoing issue that I have, especially as being a woman of color at the network. So just dealing with different kinds of people has definitely been, I guess, the biggest part of my professional growth that studying abroad has helped with. And I guess that kind of plays into the next one, you know, any skills, definitely dealing with different types of people, but also something that, you know, has been mentioned is problem solving and being independent. Because our network is so big and it's live news and, you know, people are constantly under deadlines, it's very hard to get mentorship. So a lot of the times you get hired on and you're kind of expected to figure it out, which is very much what studying abroad is like. Although we, of course, had our great study abroad office who helped us as much as they could in the United States. Once you're there, you kind of just have to go with the flow and roll with the punches. And so being able to have that experience of being, you know, in Budapest and Hungary and not know the language at all and not have self-service all the time and kind of figuring out how to navigate a different metro system and booking flights and, you know, all of that, just being able to do it by yourself without an adult there to, you know, figure it out for you, has been very beneficial for me at work. And then in terms of how I talk about studying abroad in interviews, I usually put it under education. And, you know, when people ask me, you know, tell me about yourself, I do like to bring that up because, again, going back to my last point, it's one of the ways that I can kind of prove that I'm very self-sufficient and that I'll figure it out regardless. You know, I made it back from Budapest alive, so I obviously figured it out while I was there. So it kind of gives you a level of maturity too, especially as a recent grad, to any employers that, you know, if you were able to live abroad away from family for 4 months, you'll be able to, you know, make it in our company, unless that's a very bad company, then you don't want to work there then, you know, if it's worse than living abroad by yourself. But anyway, and then what advice do you give students considering studying abroad? Definitely just do it. Similar to what Kristen said, if you can go for a year, do it. If you can do for 2 years, go for it. If you can just go abroad completely, go for it. And also go earlier. I know that as a freshman, I was scared to study abroad right away, and I definitely put it off until my junior year to go for a longer term program. But looking back now, I wish that, although I loved my Italy trip with you, Cara, I wish that I would have done, you know, a longer program a lot earlier on, because once I came back from Budapest, I wanted to go back for senior year, and it was no longer in my credit possibility. So definitely, if you're thinking about it, do it. And if you're thinking about it, do it for longer than you think that you'll be able to handle, because once you're there and once you make a couple of friends, you'll just love jumping from city to city, from country to country, meeting all types of people. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Alondra. That's such good advice. I find myself saying that advice a lot to students also, is, you know, don't let this myth of going abroad your junior year, you know, persuade you to wait. You know, go as a freshman. DePaul is special. We have first year programs where freshmen can travel. We have, you know, identities abroad programs where sophomore students can take their, you know, multiculturalism seminar, their LSP 200 class. And we have opportunities. So I love that you suggested that. I also appreciate very much that you spoke to, you know, your skill set of using your intercultural sensitivities when navigating relationships at work, right? Because we don't have to leave and go to another country to interact with people who are different from ourselves every day, right? In every place that we're at, we can use our intercultural communication skills. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. I'm really grateful that you were able to be with us. At this point in time, I would like to open it up for questions from our audience members. If you have any questions for our wonderful alumni, our wonderful panelists, you're welcome to unmute yourself and shout out your question, or if you'd like to, you know, type a question in the chat, that's absolutely fine as well. So we will allow some time for question and answer and discussion. And if you're shy, I understand. And so we can also allow a few minutes to have, wait, sorry, I went to a slide. Let me go back. We can allow for a few minutes to have any sort of last thoughts or comments from our panelists before we kind of move towards wrapping up our event. There will be 2 announcements to make before the end of the event, but I still want to allow a time for any organic conversation to occur. So if panelists have additional things that they want to share, please feel free to go ahead.
I can add something, and I should have mentioned this during my answering questions, but we were discussing this before everyone else got online, Kara, how I actually made a friend through the Italy program. And I think something to take out of this is that, you know, professionally, studying abroad is great, but sometimes the greatest thing that you pull out of that are the friendships that you make. And so I made a friend during the Italy program that I was on with Kara. And we were very close during the program, but then when we came back to Chicago, we kind of, just kind of went back to our circles, and it was, whatever. But recently she actually moved to New York, and so we reconnected, and now we're roommates. So it's like full circle. People who you meet abroad will always have this connection with you because they experience something that a lot of people in their own circles haven't experienced. So, although professionally you'll get a lot of, skills through studying abroad, I think for me at least, the most meaningful was the friendships that I made that are still very lifelong friendships. I mean, even, Cara and Bernard, you guys are still friends too. So I definitely think that that's something that we shouldn't overlook. Not so much just the professional, but also the friendships and relationships you make out of it.
Thank you for adding that. And that makes me think of what James shared with us too about how his international experience led him to meet his fiance, and how wonderful, is that. So there's a lot of really wonderful benefits to being abroad. Thank you. I should also mention that we are fortunate enough to have with us today at this event, that we have Ed Childs from the DePaul Career Center. And so he's here with us in the audience, and I might put Ed on the spot and ask him to, comment about what he's seen for students who have gone abroad, and, what kind of services that our Career Center can offer those students as well. So Ed, can I trouble you to share a comment with us?
Oh my gosh, I love this panel. Has been fantastic. If I may I say, this has been, and
Thank you.
All these stories. But if you notice the pattern, everybody talked about their adaptability, their problem solving, and the excitement, the friendships that they make. And we are facing this pandemic right now, and there's so much uncertainty. And I think the folks who have traveled abroad are probably the ones that are faring the best. And so, yes, the students who come in who've studied abroad are so excited, and they ask these questions: how can I articulate this on my resume, and where should I put it under education or experience, and how do I put it on LinkedIn, and do I put a travel picture on LinkedIn, and all these questions. And I want to do more, and what kind of careers can I do now that I love study abroad, because that's all they want to talk about. Just letting you know, in the Career Center, we have open arms. Most of us, almost all of us, love those, we're like-minded folks. We all like to travel. And so please know that come to the Career Center. We'll make sure that you get to the next step, and we'll take these study abroad experiences that you have and try to turn it into something fantastic. I just had to say, I love this panel. Look at this great picture here. So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing that. And I know this is such a great session because we just have amazing alumni. They're amazing.
Gosh, look at this. You got 2003? Are you kidding me?
I know, it's really fantastic. We wanted to try to show that our alumni are engaged, and we go from we try to stay connected, and we want our alumni to stay connected to our office. We want to be joyful and share in their victories when they're going to grad school in other countries, or they're getting jobs at these international companies. We just want to participate and share in that joy, because they're such great students, and they go off to do such amazing things in their lives, and we're very, very proud of them. So thank you guys so much for being here and for sharing your experiences. And we'll look forward to doing another alumni panel again in the future.